Welcome to Sales is Not a Dirty Word, the podcast that shows you how to convert 8 out of 10 sales conversations without acting like a douchebag. I'm your host, innovative sales coach Aleasha Bahr, the creator of the Black Sheep Sales Method, because if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there's no selling involved. If you're a service provider selling your own service who's ready to sell differently than the mainstream status quo and win more sales without pressure, pitching, or pretending to be someone else, then this is for you. If you want to know more about the Black Sheep Sales Method, go to AleashaBahr.com. This episode is with Anna Morgan. Anna is a recognized talent acquisition partner and visionary behind Career BFF, where she merges her recruiting expertise with genuine care for people leaders on their individual career journeys. She's a top voice on LinkedIn, well recognized as one of the top 25 search experts to follow in Atlanta and overall. And her influence extends beyond job placement and coaching. She is a trusted advisor to business leaders, HR departments, and recruiters across North America. She has an incredible LinkedIn audio event you should definitely check out called The Rise of the Recruiter. And I just love how much of a colorful, fun, bold woman she is. You know that I am a sucker for a fiery woman, and Anna is definitely that. And she has some really wonderful approaches to cold calling, which is absolutely necessary for the recruitment business. So
Yes.
I'm so excited to have her here. Welcome to the big show. Sales is not a dirty word. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Sales is not a dirty word, and the cold call is not dead either. I might be a geriatric Gen Xer, but excited to jump into the conversation and share a little bit of my experience to ignite some folks to pick up the phone and stop hiding behind email.
Mhm.
Oh,
So, one thing that really stuck out to me when I was talking to Anna before the podcast, you guys, was that she was saying that she just kind of naturally did it. So it's funny because she was selling marketing first, and she was like, "This is the most horrible thing that's ever happened," which is ironic because it's like what I sold. And she was like, "But recruiting, this is amazing," which is not something you usually hear. And she just absolutely crushed it from the beginning. And everyone was like, "I can't believe you're doing so well." And she was like, "How are you guys not doing so well?" And then it's a classic case of somebody who sells like a natural. So, Anna, explain what was your thought process when you started doing so well? Because it seems like you never really, it just seemed like common sense to you, right? And what was that?
yeah. I was grateful that I had some sharp mentors and guides throughout my recruiting career, but I was most importantly just my high energy self first. And if I look at the golden thread through all the types of positions that I've held where I've had success, and it was just because I was like, here I am, like, let's have a conversation, or, this is what I'm selling. This is what I got. If it's not for you, well, great conversation. By the way, I like your earrings, and just, it's all about building relationships and being curious about other people that I think has been quite a bit of the secret sauce. And then, yes, I want to sell things, but never selling from that place of desperation or me. Always selling from relationship and curiosity and about the other person first.
That aligns so well with everything that I say about sales. It's about being curious and definitely being detached from the outcome because it's okay if it's not a fit. It's not a personal rejection. And there could be opportunity for something later. So
Right.
it sounds like you always just sort of approach the conversation like you're not about to get butthurt about something, which I think really affects people's tone when they get into a conversation. It's like, "Ooh, you're gonna reject me," and
And it was
instead it's
also
like,
like, what do I have to lose? And it was a lot of times I had to remind myself that, these fancy people with these fancy titles, they put their pants on the same way I put my pants on every single morning. One foot, one leg over, by the other. And so it's just like, you know, I am a sensitive person and I have thin skin, but I I also approach sales calls from a deep place of humility and learning, because when you're coachable and you learn from each of these experiences, like, wow, that was terrible. That ice princess is never going to hire me because, she gave me nothing, right? Okay, well, what are questions that, could be more relatable or show more credibility or authority? And just continually like redefining and dialing in that process. But I also had to like trust my spidey gut sense on which direction to kind of go in those conversations.
Yeah, that's such a great example of why you can't follow a script. It's just not going to work with
Right.
every single person. So, being able to lean into your intuition and what's the response I'm getting from someone. And honestly, if you position it in the way that you just did at the beginning of this episode, like, would this be helpful for you?
Right.
Nobody's going to be
Well,
mad about it. What if it is helpful for them? Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
so here's another thing that I did that was super 101 and basic. And I'd ring, ring, ring. You'd say, this
Hey,
is
hello? Hello. This is
Alicia.
Aleasha. Yeah.
This is Anna Morgan. We don't know each other. And then I would go into the call. So I would like set them at ease, like right off the bat, saying, hey, Alicia, this is Anna Morgan. My name may not or may sound familiar, but really we don't know each other. This is why I'm calling. And that really went a very long way. And sometimes I'd also like lean into humor, but I would also do my market research and due diligence and try to find something that was like almost hook worthy when we think about writing content or creating videos, that first line so it draws the person in, but also creates a little bit of safety for them.
Yeah, can you give us an example?
Let's see. I mean, again, I was telling Alicia, like, I'm in the process of building out, scaling a, full boutique agency where I will be selling to decision makers again and kind of putting my BD hat back on and being like, "Ooh, how does this feel? Like, what is this going to sound like and look like?" I think I would study someone's profile and notice that they were also a lacrosse player. And I would say, "Hey, Alicia, this is Anna Morgan. We don't know each other, but one thing that we do have in common is that we both love lacrosse. I work for blank recruiting firm. I saw you have an opening. How do you feel about working with recruiters that, share the same passion for lacrosse? I mean, I might go in a lot of different ways, but most importantly, I would always just try to have fun with it and not take myself too seriously.
Yeah, so I'm putting myself in the prospect's shoes through that, and, like, the first thing we don't know each other, I'm like, "Okay," and then she says something about me that we have in common, I'm like, "Okay," and then she's like, "I have this position, as someone that could be a good fit," and I'm like, "Hmm, okay, tell me more." This is how I feel, basically. So, the customization of it makes such a difference, and also just I'm not pretending to be anything that I'm not in the
Right.
conversation is
Yeah.
really helpful too. And you can hear that in the tone of voice, honestly. And I think it comes from, it's hard. You don't want to fake a tone of voice, but it's an actual setting inside of yourself that you set.
Right. And then, I don't remember if we talked about this too. It's also, like, respecting and kind of mirroring the energy that you're getting on the other side of the phone. So, I remember when I transitioned from general staffing, call center, executive assistant, HR positions to recruiting accountants. Accountants are not the most outgoing, lively people like your career BFF here. So, I was like, "Oh, man." These, ladies and gentlemen are tough, and so I had to have a little bit more polish. I had to have, you know, more sophistication in my language. I had to, maybe talk about similar past clients that I've worked with that were in the same industry. They're still humans, right? But they were definitely a little more buttoned up. So, it's also about knowing your audience and, being able to meet them where they are, but still be yourself and ultimately, ask the right questions, say the right things in order to get whatever that next step is, a meeting, the ability to do a presentation, etc.
Yeah, so when I used to cold call, I was what I would call an idea seller. I would look at their stuff and I would come up with an idea. So if they had like an event, it was like, let's promote this event. I've got a cool idea where we could have a contest where people dress up as cats and you have cat food that you sell
I
or
would
like
totally
whatever,
take your call,
you know?
but it'd have to be dogs.
But that customization and that genuine excitement, no matter what the industry, really makes a difference. And yes, you're like becoming more polished for other ones, but you're still taking a genuine interest in them. They're not just a number to you, and they can feel that difference.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about when people started to call you, you were like, "Oh, now I understand why everybody was so bad at it." Like what was happening that you were like, "This is horrible?"
Oh my gosh. I was like, I need to start a training company in
Yeah.
addition to coaching and recruiting. And that still might happen because when there was this shift in, everybody was hiring recruiters, I was getting tons of messages from people that were like, teach me how to be a recruiter. And I'm like, oh, well, let's talk about that. So when people were calling me, I mean, it was timid. It was from this like required I have to make 40 sales calls today or I'm gonna get fired kind of
You're just
energy, like,
you're
you
just a
could totally
number following a script. Okay.
following a script and really not doing a lot of research. So it was very basic, lacked personalization. Oftentimes, I mean, they were quite nervous. Really didn't I don't recall getting calls from, like, someone I would say is industry peer that's, more tenured and could juggle that conversation pretty well. So I felt like I was speaking to like newbies, which is very common in third party agency. They pull kids right out of college or you have your lifers, but by then they're not really making cold calls because they have their established book of business. So they might reference like an old posting that wasn't relevant and or then they again would follow up with an email trying to cold pitch resumes, which I'm like, I don't want your resume if I haven't asked for it. That's super spammy. Stop it. And you're complicating the process for the potential job seeker as well in case they've actually applied to said company.
Yeah, so there's just like a lack of care for anyone involved, basically.
Yeah, and it was just very much like, hi, Anna. I saw that you had an accounts payable opening. I'm with X staffing company, and I really wanted to tell you about my candidate, Aleasha, that I'm representing. She has 5 years of AP, and then they wouldn't stop talking. And so
Mhm.
I would listen and say, I really appreciate what you're doing. I came from the agency world. We have an established vendor list. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. you know? So,
Yeah. So you want to find a connection point, personalize things to the connection point, be up to
mm.
date on what they are have available or open or like don't be messaging something about something that's in the past. And those sound I can imagine the people being like, "How do you do that at scale, Anna? How do you do big numbers with that?"
Well, I mean, when you talk about big numbers, I mean, there are automation tools that you can use to customize, but, I believe in being more specific is going to be more profitable. And, I would target industries that I have a personal connection with, maybe hospitality because I came from that industry, maybe, behavioral health and organizations that support people in recovery because that's part of my story. So for me, when I'm cold calling, it's like, do I have a personal connection and can I leverage that personal connection? It's not about me, but it can add to the depth of why I chose your company to call because I'm hyper obsessed and excited about what your organization is doing. And because your organization, supports people that have similar stories to me. I just wanted to call and learn more about you and, what your hiring needs are and how I might get to be a part of what you're building. Like, I mean, I could go a whole lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, so what I really was getting at with that question, and you did answer it in the way that I was
Right.
hoping you would. It's that it's more profitable to do things intentionally than just blast a bunch of numbers. So,
Yeah, I mean,
do you want
because again, getting all those emails of, the most placeable candidate and, it's like tons of text, like most salespeople, recruiters, like, we don't got time for that. We're not gonna read it, you know? Yeah, it's the hyper personalization and building and qualifying a great target list. And that's where you also have to have, some looks at yourself in the mirror and being like, is this a legit prospect for me? Depending on your industry and what you focus on, there are certain qualifiers that you want to hold yourself accountable to. So you're not calling the same person 70 times and then on the 71st time find out that that's the wrong number or that they, have no product or service that's aligned with what you're selling or your features and benefits.
Yeah, it's like, do you wanna call 100 people and then get 1 person to move forward, or would you like to call 15 and get 7 to move forward? It's like, what would you like? So, the other thing that I'm sure people are thinking about is like, what if I get a voicemail, and what if there's a
I love
gatekeeper?
voicemails because voicemails are like voice notes. They're like mini commercials.
Okay.
All right. You see what I'm putting down? Like, just like
Yeah.
I would have the pitch, same kind of concept, hook, intrigue, value, what's in it for them. Call me back. I'm gonna give you my VIP cell number, you know, and again, have fun with it and not being afraid that, somebody's gonna record it and put it on TikTok and make fun of you. Like, who cares? Like, if it gets you business, if that TikTok might get you business if they don't do business with you, you know?
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that being an option. Are people doing that?
Well, I mean, as someone that might have, had strong opinions about LinkedIn profiles or, marketing strategies and may have documented their opinions, I think it might happen.
Okay. Okay. So the other thing is like, okay, so I like the idea of positioning it more as a voice note in your mind. And then what about gatekeepers? Because a lot of times you want to reach that higher place decision maker who's at a higher revenue company, multiple millions of dollars, $100 million company. How does they're going to have somebody who's fielding those calls for them? And how do you get past
Yeah.
that person?
And since COVID, obviously the landscape has changed and I've not been pounding the pavement since pre-COVID. So, I would if there's still an old school receptionist that's multi-line answering phones, again finding different ways to build rapport. If I could stop by the office and drop off something that was personalized and or thoughtful without it being bribery of sorts, I would probably lean into that. Recruiters, we love to deliver donuts and bagels and all kinds of sweet things, to get conversations going with hiring managers or, you know, talent managers that make the decisions of who's on the vendor list. So I would probably follow the person on LinkedIn if they were active on the platform. I'd probably show up in the comments to support their content, you know, to show that I, you know, am giving to them without wanting anything in return and celebrating them. Now there's a lot of people that are not active on the platform. Um, they could be active on other places. Not necessarily would I go and connect with a receptionist on Facebook if I hadn't had a conversation with her. But if it's public and I could garner market in research and intelligence and like plug into their brain a little bit, you bet your bippy I'm going to review that sucker and, dig around in different places to see what I can find that would facilitate a more meaningful conversation that would develop trust. Because when there's trust, then there's an ability to explore and explain why you're calling. And then you know, earn the right to ask for, "Hey, is, Chris Jones your, CFO, and would he be the right person to go to for, the senior FP&A role that I would love to fill?" You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's usually what I've advised when people are like looking at gatekeepers. It's like, hey, the gatekeeper's a person too. And they're so tired of no one caring about them. Like, they know you
Oh,
just are like,
yeah.
get out of my way. Let me talk to the so and so. Like,
Yeah.
why would they help you with that? You don't even
Mhm.
care about them. So,
Right.
I love the idea of supporting them in some way. And you can support the owner or the person you're wanting to get in touch with some other way. Like, that
Right.
idea of giving first is so powerful in
Mhm.
any context, especially in a lead generation context. So I really love that.
And then it's also, like, just shooting straight with people, like, whether it's the receptionist or a decision maker, like, "Aleasha, this is why I'm calling. I know that you probably take lots of calls from recruiters. I would love a chance to tell you, why I selected you to call you and truly have an opportunity to compete for your business, because I know that you work with 4 other agencies in Atlanta, and I heard through the grapevine that there might be an opportunity to have a conversation, you know? I wouldn't The first thought I had was, like, that my competition wasn't executing well, but I wouldn't necessarily throw someone under the bus. So,
Yeah, that's always a tricky situation.
yeah.
You can say it a little more vaguely, maybe like sometimes recruitment companies drop the ball in this way, and I would love to pick it up for you.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
know why my light just crashed there, but here we are.
mm,
Now it's like nighttime. It's a
yeah,
fireside chat.
it's kind of cozy. Um,
Yeah.
so you guys, to sum it up, it is making somebody feel chosen with something custom to them and actually being excited about something beyond possibly getting their money, like some type of connection point that makes sense,
Mhm.
and making them feel like you care about them and not pretending it's anything that it's not, just genuinely trying to be helpful.
And
And
also
yeah.
treating it like it's networking, right? And decision maker result agnostic, like take that out of the equation and be curious about others and then work towards starting more conversations. And it goes back to a quote from Steve Jobs that I probably got from our mutual friend Judy Fox, that you can't connect the dots looking forwards, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And he says
Mm.
you have to trust in karma, destiny, intuition, that these connection points, these conversations, will be fruitful in the future. And so that has been like, you know if I had to summarize the whole process, it has been approaching those calls in that energy.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I say this and people get it and sometimes they don't, but really to be good at sales, it just comes down to actually giving a shit about the other person. It's that simple.
100%. I had the sweetest compliment that came in yesterday from an office hours I do with a group, and we ended up talking about sales because there's a lot of job seekers and entrepreneurs on the call. And let's be honest, job seeking is selling.
Yes, it
Anyway,
is.
she said, the people who love sales and that want to teach us how to do this, they're coming from a pure place of energy. And she was like, you have such a grounded energy that is welcoming and encouraging. And, you know, it's not alienating, it's, comforting essentially. And so she was like, that is what people respond to. That builds that trust and credibility. And that's what helps fast track conversations. I was just like, this lady made me cry. It was the sweetest thing ever. She was like,
Mm.
I just want to reflect back to you that your energy is spot on. And that honestly has been the biggest common thread throughout my whole career, is people compliment my energy. Now, I can't unlock that for your listeners, but I just encourage them not to hold back and, be themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to really setting the intention inside yourself to be excited to meet these people and help them.
Mm,
And that is a lot more realistic when you do research ahead of time.
mhm.
You're
Yeah.
able to find something that is genuinely a connection point you can authentically share with passion.
Yeah, and not being ashamed of being a sales professional. Like, we all have products to sell and services to sell, and, not being afraid to own that too. I think that also is part of kind of embodying that confidence that, you know, this is personal, but this is also business. And this is just the way of the world. And, again, not being afraid to step into that, be curious about others. And then when it's time to sell and, do the dog and pony show in the presentation, there's that level of comfort and commonality there that absolutely increases the chances of you, landing that client or winning that particular job.
Yeah, and I mean, it really
Sorry, I know I keep jumping in. You were doing a
no.
great job of saying, chosen, customizing things.
Yeah, the personalization, but there was something about, like, oh, yeah, when I was selling, I sometimes I would be like, "You know what? I'd like to earn your business. Is there some way I could do that? Like, would you share
Yeah,
it with me?" And there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. Like, if somebody tells me they wanna earn my business, I'm like, "Okay." Like, it's that not pretending this is anything else. Like,
right.
and I would say, like, I actually really like you too, so I'd like to work with you for that reason, but also I'd like to earn your business. So, you
Exactly.
know, it and that sort of confidence, or not being ashamed of it, because there's nothing to be ashamed of,
Right.
really sets everyone at ease. Kind of like you were saying, where you're like, "You don't know me. You don't know me." Like, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna pretend like we're best friends. Like, I know that that's a cold calling strategy where it's like, "Oh my god, hey, how are you?" And you're like, "Do I know you?" And it's really off-putting. Like,
yeah. This
just
is really confusing, and how did you get my cell number? No, absolutely. There was another thought I had, and just like you had the experience, it just went in one ear and out the other. But, you know, sales calls are fun. And if you want to stand out and, you're in a highly competitive space like I am in recruiting, the way you will stand out, one, is to pick up the phone because the majority of people today try to hide behind email marketing, email campaigns, LinkedIn messages, etc. And, you know, getting out of the gate with a phone call. Also, people are more inclined to respond to a text or a phone voicemail, than they are to email. Like, look at how many unread emails are probably in your inbox. And let's be honest, they're easy to ignore. Phone calls, not so much. And it also shows that, wow, you took the effort to leave a thoughtful voicemail. I know different generations have strong opinions about text and voicemail and calling. You just have to try different things out. At least that's what I'm going to be doing.
yeah. So, I mean, I totally agree that it's kind of like direct mail. Like, you write somebody something, you're standing out at this point, because just nobody's doing it. Everybody's emailing and texting too, honestly.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, my husband's like, "Did you read my text?" I'm like, "I get so many texts." I'm sorry. Yes, I did read it. I did read it. And then I think it's also, like, blending a lot of different strategies. So, you could leave a voicemail, then you go see if they're active on LinkedIn, engage publicly, then maybe send a handwritten note, then follow that up with an email, and then try them again via call. Like, mixing it up a lot of different ways because, again, depending on your ideal client, eventually you might start to see some patterns or trends in demographics or ages that prefer one or the other. But I
Definitely.
feel like overall, across all generations, picking up the phone and cold calling would be my go to, starting off point.
Well, personalization is timeless. Actually, giving a
Yeah.
shit about someone is timeless. Curiosity is timeless. So, thank you so much, Anna. That's a
Yeah.
good stopping point for us. And thank you
Perfect.
again for making an appearance as our guest
Thank you
today.
for having
Can you
me.
tell can you tell everyone how to find out more about you and how they could work with you?
Yes, absolutely. So if you are a job seeker and you need a career BFF in your corner to guide you on clarity, branding, building, fast tracking, and future proofing you into your next career, you will want to book a call with me through LinkedIn. if you go to my profile, it says book a call, book a call, book a call, because I like calls on my profile. So it's Anna Morgan career BFF recruiter or recruiter career BFF. So it'll be in the show notes, easy to find. If you are a business looking to hire, you can also reach out to me via LinkedIn or anna.morgan at careerbff.net. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. And thank you all for listening. Until next time.